Hello, everyone. Hello, hello.
Hello.
We're here on the Conscious Educator Playground. And I am like so many things in the world. And always grateful to have you here, Shiva, on the Conscious Educator Playground. And today we are diving into servant leadership. And there is a bazillion hours of conversation that we could have on this topic, right?
Yes, absolutely.
As always. And hi, Rosie. It is so good to see all of you that continue to join us on the Conscious Educator Playground podcast. And like I said, today is all about servant leadership. I am currently in Florida, and so it's a little, my audio is a little bit different, my background's a little bit different, but I am here, and the reason that I'm in Florida is because of the unfortunate events of the hurricane last week. I came out to support my sister and her team of psychologists as they navigate through supporting the mental wellness of everyone impacted by the hurricane. And as in any natural disaster, any crisis for that matter, there is a lot that needs to be tended to when it comes to our overall well-being, and a big component of that is our mental and emotional well-being. And so being able to be here and support my sister and her team, I am their chief culture coach, and also we partner with schools where they deliver school psychology services, and then I and our educator dynamics team, we take care of the culture piece within our schools. And it's a really beautiful marriage that my sister and I have been able to create this partnership as we serve schools and children all across the United States. And so with this, and I outlined our topics for the podcast a while back, and so there's no coincidences of the timeliness of this, that when I sat down to look at the topic for this week's podcast of servant leadership, it really aligns to what we're witnessing. And I think what we witness in a lot of crisis type situations is that you see leadership and servant leadership show up in such a beautiful way. And the amount of collaboration and teamwork and all hands on deck and trust and just like get her done type of energy and attitude and behavior is beautiful, right? And it's how we navigate as a human species. It's like, all right, fire drill, we got this. And everyone kind of checks their ego at the door, and we take care of each other. And I am seeing countless examples of that here within these communities.
Sure.
Stories after stories after stories of connection, support, neighborliness. Is that a word?
It is now.
It is now. And I also, like, I've been hearing this for the past decade plus in working with schools and organizations, is all often in times of quote unquote normalcy. There I am doing my air quotes again, Shiva. That I'll have leaders often ask, like, how do we actually do that when it's not a crisis? Because doing that, like, we're in rhythm, we're a team, like we do amazing things together, and everyone's getting along, and everyone's helpful, and everyone's so trusting. And Shiva, what are some of the other characteristics you see when there's a crisis and a team's all hands on deck? What characteristics do you notice when it's flowing?
Character, obviously responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. You see a lot of that. There's not a lot of blaming going on. It's just people, a lot of accountability, right? I'm a part of this. It's my job to do this. I don't know if that's a word. It's just like that stick-to-itiveness, right? That ability to see things through.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so amazing, right? It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Like all these people that were like irritated with one another, sometimes 2 hours before. And all of a sudden they're collaborating and they've got each other and they see each other's humanness and we're in it. Like we've got this.
Right.
And then sometimes it shows up that, oh, where did it go? Like it almost leaves as quickly as it came in, right? Yeah. And those teams really are struggling at the foundation of it with trust.
Right.
Right. So we talk a lot about safety, right? Creating safe environments.
Sure.
When we think about servant leadership, it is really anchored in trust.
Absolutely.
So as we do on these 25-minute podcasts, it's like, let's just go deep fast, right? Sheba, let's talk about what does it look like to not have trust in an environment?
Well, yeah, if there's no trust, I mean, it's a lot of paranoia. It's a lot of fear. I believe there's a lot of anger. And when you don't have that environment of trust, somebody's always waiting for something bad to happen. And I think that paralyzes people. And then that's why you don't really see that type of servant leadership when there's no trust, because it's like, well, I'm not doing it. No one asked me. And, what's going to happen if I do it? Are they out to get me? And just all of these other things that stem from, not having that foundation of trust.
Yeah. And it really is that reactionary survival, fear-based culture that we've talked about in the evolution of consciousness, in the evolution of consciousness tree that we usually reference. Right. And when you have that, it's like, it's happened to us.
Right.
So we end up on our heels. And when we're in that mode of something's happened to us versus something happening for us. Right. And it is really hard to see and to have a mindset of this is happening for me.
Right.
Especially when it's a natural disaster, especially when it is a massive crisis. I mean, we talk about the school shootings, we talk about like all of these crises that happen within our communities. And when you're in it, it's like, this did happen to me. And you're absolutely right, it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And along the journey through the grief, through the anger, through the healing, when you get there, there's usually a lesson in it. There's usually something that you learned. There's something that you took away and used it as an opportunity to grow and evolve. And it sucks when you're in it. And that's really the first step, I believe, to servant leadership, is leaders allowing you to feel what you freaking feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is point A, point one, point alpha, whatever you call it. Let's try to make it. Right? It is that moment one.
Yeah.
You get to say, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
The humans that I have had the blessing of being connected with this week, really that's been my goal. That's the energy that I'm bringing to being here, is while, yes, I experienced the hurricane because my sister and brother-in-law were in it and I was afraid for them, and I have family here and friends here. I didn't experience it because I wasn't in it, right? So I don't have the same trauma response. I don't have the same, anything. I didn't have the same experience. My own, mine's unique and mine's valid and valuable for me, but it's definitely not the same. And so coming here is like, you know what, who I show up as is really to serve and to be in this place of, I'm just going to hold space for you. What's real for you right now? We had an all hands with all of the psychologists that work for my sister's company, and really is what's real.
Right.
Let's just be real together for a moment,
Right.
or 2 or 5 or 20 or whatever it takes, right?
Right.
How often do we actually get real with
Right.
one another?
There it is. And I just want to add this. I think too, it's I don't want to say it's a part of the human condition, but I think it's something that organizations and people, and regardless of field, sometimes we just take life and people and things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of I'm a servant leader, or there's a higher purpose than the title.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's always there, because people, it sometimes it takes a crisis for people to remember that our lives are fragile. No one's promised tomorrow. It takes a crisis for people to realize how little control we actually have. So I think that whether it be organizations or, just leaders, I think that in order to really start having that mindset in everything we all do, is just to have that purpose panned out and aligned, and that understanding is there. Yeah. We are here to serve others. We are here to serve humanity, because we understand the fragility of everything. Yeah. And we're not, I always tell my daughter, don't wait until it's a crisis situation, right? If you need help, tell me when it's, what did you say, Sandy? Step alpha. Tell me when it's a $5 issue. Don't just come to me when it's a $5,000 issue. Mm-hmm. So I think that when we can especially have those hard conversations and really work on just that culture where we're here for something that's bigger than us. Yeah. I think that's the start of it. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I really feel like that's the start of that.
Yeah, exactly. And we get to start somewhere.
Right.
And it's that ownership of who you're showing up as,
right,
in connection with others.
Absolutely.
We talk about sense of belonging being a core human need. I mean, we need one another.
Right.
And if we're not honoring where someone's at, then we're unintentionally diminishing them.
Absolutely.
And in a couple weeks, it actually might be next week. No, I think it's good. Anyways, I don't know what day it is. We have Elise Foster coming on, who was one of the co-authors of The Multiplier Effect. And so we're going to talk a lot about unintentional diminishing. Right. And I absolutely adore her as a human, and her work with Liz Wiseman is just brilliant. And when we think about, all of the qualities, and I'm sure that we could list a ton of them that go under leaders that we admire, servant leaders that we would do anything for, right?
Absolutely.
Someone's leading and we trust them, and there's so many characteristics that they show up with, and oftentimes we'll list them in workshops in order to really go, okay, and then turn that around. Which characteristics do you embody, and who are you showing up as? Sure. Because that's really the critical piece, is to go, yes, I love this in these people. Right. Okay, how are you embodying that? And the majority of the time you're embodying it in a lot of ways. You just forget to look in the mirror and actually celebrate who you are and how you're showing up. Right. And that in and of itself really allows you to show up more embodying that and owning that you are a good leader. Right. And you don't have to have a certain title to be considered a leader. Right. You can be a leader of your own life, and you can have servant leader characteristics. Sure. That you just show up with in the world, right? Whether it's that you see someone struggling with their groceries, to hold the cart while it's windy outside to get the groceries in the car, and you go and hold their cart for them, or you help them put their groceries in, or what. You're showing up with that energy of servant leadership, right? Absolutely. Of seeing someone outside of yourself, that common humanity.
Sure. Absolutely. And you know what? And if we just raised, we always talk about kids, right? Especially in the education field. And when we raise our children that way, right? When we start raising them in a way where they can see things beyond themselves. I mean, so when we were moving my oldest son into college, and Georgetown has these huge rolling hills, which I didn't know until I had to move stuff up them, but they gave us these big, they were huge rolling carts so that you could roll your child's things up the hill. And in DC, it can rain at the drop of a hat. And that's what started happening. So I was, so both of my youngest sons were moving with a cart. I was helping my youngest son with his cart. And we saw an older dad pushing the cart with a suitcase on his back. And when the rain started falling, the suitcase started to slip. And so I let go of the cart that I was holding with my youngest to help the dad. And when I looked back at my son, he said, "No, mommy, help him. He needs the help." And when you raise your children with that understanding, right? That ability, again, to see beyond yourself, like, you know what? Somebody's in need. He said, "Don't worry about it. I'll just wait here. Help the dad first." Mm-hmm. And you know what was so cool? Another dad came and helped my sons. Mm-hmm. So when we all, like you said, it doesn't even have to be something big. Mm-hmm. It's just this idea that we're all here in order to do the best work for humanity, even in the little things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And those of you that get my emails and follow along on social, I quoted Simon Sinek from his book, Leaders Eat Last. And I love Simon's work. I mean, I think he does a really amazing job in the world of sharing so many brilliant things that help guide us. And he talked about too many workplaces are driven by cynicism, paranoia, and self-interest. Sure. Ego, right? Yeah. But the best ones foster trust and cooperation because their leaders build a circle of safety.
Absolutely.
That separates the security inside the team from the challenges outside.
Absolutely.
And there are enough challenges in this world that we don't need to like have infighting, I guess is we don't need to circle the wagons and shoot in. There's an analogy. Like let's not shoot out either. Let me stop.
Right.
But let's create these circles of safety that are aligned to our common values.
Absolutely.
That allow us to attract like-minded humans and resources and opportunities for ourselves, for our students, for our communities.
Yes.
Because abundance is abundance. There's not a lack of abundance. There's abundance everywhere. And even in tragedy, we see abundance of humanity. We see abundance of connectedness. We see abundance of neighborliness.
It's a word now. It's in our word bank.
It's in our word bank now.
Yes. And I think that that takes a lot of courage too, which we've talked about before, for leaders to say, when things don't align, right, for the higher good, it's like, no, we don't do that here. So there's gotta be this courage there to protect the circle of trust so that there isn't any infighting.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Like there's not going to, that's not the way we speak to each other. This is the way we handle problems, right? We're not going to be afraid to have these difficult conversations. So all of those things really need to be established, right? To, I think, create that trust that needs to happen, where servant leadership can grow and flourish.
Absolutely. And it takes time. Like you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And it sometimes takes radical transformation and asking for outside help and support to navigate through, whether that's a friend, a colleague, a coach, a consultant, whoever. There's so many resources out there. It's really when you recognize and you reach out a hand,
Sure.
and realize you're not alone. Whether you're, a leader within a system with the title and you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, there are resources to support you. And we're one of them. But there are so many out there that really go, you know what? We've got this together. We're going to figure this out together. And we're going to create this safe environment, this circle of trust, this circle of safety, where everyone's voice is heard and valuable. And like we talked about, sometimes it is that simple of saying and looking at someone authentically and saying, I see you, I hear you, and I value you. You matter, and you're worth it. And I'm going to sit here with you while we navigate through this. And tell me how I can best support you. Versus trying to fix, right? And solve without first giving permission to be and to hold that space.
That's so important, Sandy. That's so important, because I think too, if you don't ask first what people need, it can be really invasive and overwhelming to them. So I'm so glad you said that. And I learned that the hard way.
I think we all have.
Right. Well, we rush in, and it's like, well, I'm doing something good, but you're giving people things that they didn't ask for and that they don't need.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. A good reminder.
Yeah. Well, and we all do it, right? We all want to help. We all want to, I do it with son probably more often the wrong way than when I'm human. I do it. I want to fix, I want to solve, I want to make right in the world for him, and I also recognize when I'm being too overbearing or too like in his face. I'm like, oh, Becca, you know what? I trust you. And I'll catch myself every once in a while, and I'll literally say those words to not only acknowledge him, but to trigger in my own mind, like, you do trust him. He does make good choices.
Absolutely. It's, you got to make it like a mantra.
you gotta fix it. and then, it shifts the conversation where he's like, oh, mom trusts me to make that. And sometimes it's just simply me saying, I trust you. Like, this is my opinion.
Right.
But you get to choose.
Right.
And you'll either learn something or you'll get the outcome you want.
Right.
One or the other.
Right.
Both are okay. You'll navigate through either one.
Absolutely.
But if I try to make all your choices for you and do it for you all the time and fix for you, then I'm not allowing the other person, my son in this case, to actually establish self-trust.
Right. And
that folds into the accidental diminisher characteristic that some leaders will embody unintentionally, not trying to be evil or anything, truly trying to be helpful, but without asking for permission or asking for, how can I support you best? And someone might say, I don't know, you tell me, and go, okay, well, these are my ideas. What do you think? Like, still continue it as a dialogue versus okay, I'm going to fix you, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to clean out your fridge, and you're going to only eat all healthy food, and you're never going to have ice cream again. That person's going to go reach for ice cream in the middle of the night.
That's the first thing they're going to get.
So, like, we're not broken.
Right.
We're humans with emotions.
Absolutely.
And that's just energy in motion.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we're broken.
Right.
And if we can really just embody that place of service to one another as well as ourselves,
right,
to recognize we're whole, we're not broken.
Right.
We may be a little beat up and bruised from, some punches in life, right?
Right, right.
But we're not broken from them.
No.
We've had experiences that have impacted us, and we will navigate through how we actually use those going forward, whether it's as wisdom or whether it's information to make different choices in the future, whether it's whatever. I mean, we get to look at it and use it as fuel for whatever is next in our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Sheba, as we kind of wrap up this servant leader crisis management conversation, what other words would you like people to walk away with? What other nuggets?
I just want to remind people that servant leadership doesn't mean that it has to be, that you have to sacrifice so much of self that it's painful. Servant leadership is just about knowing that there's something bigger than you, that, it's something beyond you that's worth putting in the hard work. And it always turns out beautifully in the end. But yeah, and because I think when people hear the word servant, it's like, well, I don't want to do that. Listen, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's just about knowing, like you said, helping in a crisis situation, that we need each other. We can't do this without each other. Mm-hmm. And I think if we look at it from that lens, it's going to be so amazing. And people aren't going to be afraid to do the work.
I love it. And I just want to highlight what you said, is that when you recognize that it's bigger than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Recognizing that this work that we're all doing in this world is bigger than us, and we get to do it together. And Sheba, as always, I am so grateful for your brilliance, your wisdom, your friendship. I am grateful to have you in my world. And I am so grateful to all of you for tuning in to the Conscious Educator Playground podcast. And again, every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, we will stream these live on Facebook as we record them. And then you can catch them on the Conscious Educator Playground podcast on Apple and Spotify. So you can catch all of the previous recordings. And like I said, we have some really exciting guests coming up over the next month that have their wisdom to share. And Sheba and I will be right alongside guiding the conversations and digging in deep to get some beautiful nuggets out. And I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day. Please comment below, send us messages. We'd love to hear what your takeaways are as you listen to our podcast, and wish you all a beautiful evening, morning, day, wherever you are in the world. Thanks so much, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.